Cleopatra is considered one of the most beautiful women in history. In 69 BC, she captivated Roman general Mark Antony with her intelligence, wit, and seductive powers. They fell madly in love and did everything to be together, even though their relationship was forbidden. They were a couple that seemed destined to be together, but why? Was it fate, or was there something more behind their story? Let's find out if this forbidden love was really meant to be. Queen Cleopatra and Roman general Mark Antony, two powerful figures who lived thousands of years ago, have been romanticized for centuries. But what was the real story behind their forbidden love, and how did it change the course of history? The year is 69 BC, when Queen Cleopatra meets Roman general Mark Antony for the first time in Tarsus. Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, was known for her intelligence, beauty, and political acumen. She had already made a name for herself in the ancient world as a shrewd negotiator and a fierce protector of her people. Mark Antony, on the other hand, was a Roman general and statesman who was renowned for his military prowess and his strategic brilliance. He was also a member of the Roman Triumvirate, a group of three powerful leaders who ruled over the Roman world. The two leaders met in Tarsus when Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, came to negotiate a peace treaty with the Romans. The meeting was not just a diplomatic event. It was a chance for two brilliant minds to connect, and it was an opportunity for two hearts to fall in love. The story goes that when Antony first saw Cleopatra, he was immediately smitten with her beauty and charm. He was so captivated by her presence that he forgot all about the political negotiations that they were supposed to be having. Instead, he spent the day just talking to her, learning about her culture and her people. Now, some say that it was destiny that brought these two great leaders together, while others believe that it was all part of Cleopatra's plan to secure her kingdom's future. Whether it was fate or fortune, what is certain is that the meeting between Cleopatra and Mark Antony was the beginning of a love story that would change the course of history. But let's take a step back and look at this from Antony's perspective. At the time of their meeting, Antony was at a crucial point in his life. He had recently defeated the rebellious Parthian king and had gained control of the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire. He was also in the process of negotiating a peace treaty with Cleopatra's brother Ptolemy XIII, who ruled over Egypt. But Antony was not just a skilled military leader and diplomat, he was also a man with a troubled past. He had been married 3 times before, and each marriage had ended in divorce or the death of his spouse. He was also estranged from his father, who had disinherited him in favor of Antony's older brother. Cleopatra, on the other hand, was also navigating a complex political landscape. She had inherited the Egyptian throne at the age of 14 after the death of her father, Ptolemy XII. She ruled jointly with her sister, but their relationship was fraught with tension and eventually led to the sister's demise. Cleopatra was also aware of the growing threat posed by the Roman Empire to the independence of her kingdom. Despite all of these challenges, Antony and Cleopatra found solace in each other's company. They shared a love of art, literature, and philosophy, and they were both fascinated by each other's cultures. Cleopatra was particularly drawn to Roman culture and had even learned to speak Latin. Antony, on the other hand, was intrigued by Egyptian customs and traditions and was impressed by Cleopatra's knowledge of astrology and alchemy. They also bonded over their shared experiences as rulers, discussing the challenges and rewards of leadership and the pressures that came with it. As the days went by, their friendship grew into something more, a passionate love affair that defied the boundaries of their political obligations. They exchanged gifts, including a golden asp that Cleopatra sent to Antony as a symbol of her affection, and they began to plan a future together outside the constraints of their royal duties. Cleopatra even took the unprecedented step of visiting Antony in his camp outside the city walls. A bold move that showed the depth of her love for him. However, their relationship was not without its obstacles. Both Antony and Cleopatra were bound by their sense of duty to their respective kingdoms. Antony had responsibilities to his Roman allies and his own ambitions for power, while Cleopatra had to protect the interests of her people and preserve the independence of her kingdom. This conflict between love and duty would become a central theme in their relationship and ultimately lead to their downfall. As the peace negotiations with Cleopatra's brother dragged on, Antony became increasingly frustrated. He felt torn between his obligations to Rome and his growing feelings for Cleopatra. Meanwhile, Cleopatra was also under pressure from her advisors, who were skeptical of the Roman intentions and worried about the implications of her relationship with Antony. Despite these challenges, the couple found ways to be together whenever they could, stealing moments of intimacy amidst the chaos of war and politics. As the love between Cleopatra and Mark Antony deepened, so did the conflict between them and their respective duties. Cleopatra's brother, Ptolemy XIII, was assassinated, leaving Cleopatra as the sole ruler of Egypt. However, this victory for Cleopatra came at a cost. The assassination attempt was blamed on Antony, which strained their relationship and created a rift between them. The couple tried to repair the damage, but the trust was broken and Cleopatra became more suspicious of Antony's motives. Meanwhile, Octavian, Antony's rival in Rome, seized on the opportunity to paint Antony as a reckless ruler who was more interested in pleasure than his duties. He accused Antony of wasting the Roman treasury on Cleopatra and her lavish lifestyle, and used this as a way to turn the Roman Senate against the couple. As the political pressure mounted, Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, where they hoped to be safe from Octavian's reach. There they built their own palace and surrounded themselves with art, luxury, and splendor. They also had children, further cementing their bond as a family. Despite their efforts to build a life together, the shadow of Octavian loomed large over their future. The Roman general was determined to crush Antony and bring Cleopatra to heel. He assembled a powerful fleet and marched on Alexandria, determined to end the romance of the century once and for all. In the summer of 32 BC, the Battle of Actium took place, a clash between the forces of Mark Antony and Cleopatra and those of Octavian, who would later become the first emperor of Rome. The battle was fought over control of the eastern Mediterranean and was a pivotal moment in the rise of the Roman Empire. The battle began with a naval engagement between the two opposing forces. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet was larger and more powerful, but they were outmaneuvered by Octavian's forces. Despite their best efforts, Antony and Cleopatra were forced to flee and take refuge in Egypt. However, this was only the beginning of their troubles. As the news of their defeat spread, Octavian's forces began to march on Egypt, determined to capture the former lovers and bring them to justice. Antony and Cleopatra desperately tried to fortify Alexandria and raise new armies to defend them, but it was too late. Octavian's forces were too strong and the end seemed inevitable. Faced with the prospect of capture and humiliation, Cleopatra and Antony made a tragic decision. They chose to take their own lives rather than surrender to their enemies. According to legend, Cleopatra allowed an asp, an Egyptian snake, to bite her as she lay in her lover's arms. Meanwhile, Antony, who had been wounded in the battle, died from a self-inflicted sword wound. The story of Cleopatra and Mark Antony has echoed through the ages and continues to captivate people around the world. Their tragic love story has been depicted in countless works of art, literature, and film. One of the most famous portrayals of the couple can be seen in Shakespeare's play Antony and Cleopatra, which explores the themes of love, betrayal, and the destructive nature of power. The question of whether Cleopatra and Mark Antony's love was meant to be is a complex one. On one hand, their love story was marked by tragedy from the very beginning. They were from different worlds, separated by vast cultural and political differences. Yet somehow, their love transcended these barriers. Despite the odds being stacked against them, they fought to be together, risking everything for a chance at happiness. On the other hand, their love ultimately led to their downfall. Their relationship was a distraction for both of them, taking their focus away from their duties and responsibilities, and their inability to compromise or find a middle ground ultimately resulted in the destruction of both their kingdoms and their lives. It may never be known for sure whether Cleopatra and Mark Antony's love was meant to be, but what is certain is that their story is a timeless tale of passion, betrayal, and the human condition. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos about amazing historical couples. And remember, stay tuned for more exciting historical tales.